Welcome, everybody, to the first ever Kicker podcast, our inaugural podcast. Our first prop once has got me in it. It didn't count when you were doing it. Yeah. So I'm Steve. I'm the CEO of Kicker. Vic.
I am Vic. It's so weird when people call me Vic. I'm Victor.
Do you know what I always call you, Vic?
It's my fault. So when Victor joined Kicker, I introduced him to everyone as Vic, and I've never called him Vic before in my life up until that day, and now everyone calls him Vic.
That's crazy.
So it's my fault. I just gave you a nickname.
But yeah, I am artist development lead at Kicker. That's what I kind of do.
So I'm Alice. I am operations manager at Kicker, and I manage the key artists on the platform.
Awesome. And we have the delectable... I don't know, what on earth am I saying?
Delectable?
I know.
Delectable.
I don't know where that came from. I think that was the stuff that was recorded before we actually started. I think that's where that all spawned from. Yeah. So behind camera, we've got Connor, who's going to be keeping us on track.
Delectable Connor.
Yeah, it's delectable Connor who's going to keep us on track.
Delectable Connor's crazy.
You know what's actually crazy? So we got an email last week from an artist who was like, I don't want to name the other platform. Yeah. I'm at this distribution. We did some fun art meta ads on our songs, and they have taken away, I think it said up to 40% of their streams on the song. And that's the second email I've received on that topic. What is going on? Like, it seems that this is becoming even more.
I mean, I feel like at the start of the year, obviously, when Spotify completely changed up their rules and introduced the fines and all that. Like, at first, I thought that was going to be a really positive thing because it was going to stop artists just being able to click buttons for clout, basically. Yeah. But I feel like it's gone way too far because I'm getting artists that are messaging me saying, I've had XYZ removed, and I know they're legit artists. Nothing's AI. No, they're not using bots. But then again, artists are getting added to bot posts without their permission, which is like, how do you control that?
The
and I'm looking to you because
the only people who can control that is Spotify. We can't control it. Artists can't control it. That playlist gets started and they add you to that playlist. You get 1,000 streams to take you off again. Only Spotify can control that. And no artists get added to this because they request to get added to it. They're added without their consent.
Yeah, I think it's that, isn't it? Because I think it's two things. Because then it's like, is Spotify actually doing enough to control the Wild West on their platform anyway? You know what I mean? Because then it's not the artist's fault. If your platform is riddled with so many kind of bot playlists and stuff, what can the artist do? But then I think the second thing is there is no clear communication, and I'm talking about us as a distributor now. There's no clear communication between Spotify and us of what their rules and guidelines are and how they are actually justifying or judging what counts as fake streaming or bot streaming. There's no...
Yeah, they're not transparent about it.
Yeah.
They'll just take stuff away. I mean, we've got like an artist who we all know who works for Kicker, who releases stuff, and we've done a load of advertising stuff for him, all legit means using people who everybody else would know. We've done stuff through Hypetick, we've done stuff through MetaRaz, we've done stuff through Submit Hub, through Groover, and he's lost streams on everything. Every single one. You know what he didn't lose streams on? Direct advertising through Spotify. Go figure that one out.
Okay, so like now it's starting to make sense because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So potentially then you could be saying that Spotify is actually using this as a way to monopolize the industry.
Absolutely not, because that could potentially be libelous.
Allegedly.
Yeah, straight up though. That's kind of the thing. It's like, well, if you're taking streams away from all these other legit means, and it's not happening to everybody.
Yeah.
I think they've got like a marker. I think somebody gets a mark against them and then the like things are taken away. But here's a really interesting one. So we're working, I'm doing something like on validation of streams and stuff like that. And we put all these validation measures together. And one of the key measures of is it fake was a load of streams, but a low stream to listener count.
Yeah. Right.
But that's what happens when you advertise, right? You advertise and you go out and you get like, here's 5,000 people who might stream at once.
What happens if you hit editorial, that's pushed by Spotify? They push you to pitch your music. They want you to hit Music Friday. If you get in a massive playlist, you're going to get really, really high streams and you're going to get a spike. And are they going to reduce that? The other thing that I think isn't right at all is the under 1,000 streams debate. Because when it happened, everyone was kind of like, don't take my money away from me. And I'm like, you guys are fighting over like 0.02p. Like, it's not that much to lose. However, we did that research, didn't we? And 80% of the music on Spotify not only has less than 1,000 streams, it's never been streamed by anybody, right? So the ones that are getting under 1,000 streams, where's that money going? Because if it's not going to, that's what I'm saying. And that's what I don't think's right. I mean, I think they're kind of sugarcoating it by saying, oh, it doesn't matter if you don't get your monetization for your less than 1,000 because it's no money anyway. But if that's happening over a mass scale, what does that mean?
I mean,
where's that money going?
Yeah,
you know?
and it's that, isn't it? Where's the money going? And it goes back to even the artist who has now said, okay, they've taken the streams away from me. What happens to those money?
What happens to the royalties?
That's the interesting
What
part for
happens to
me.
the royalties to that? And then the second thing is...
Because I know as a distro, we don't get them.
Yeah, exactly. And then away from
it's not us.
The mechanical side of it, what happens to the publishing royalties?
Yeah. What happens to the publishing?
Where do they go?
Because if they've generated publishing on that, and I guess the people who listen to this might not know this, that you generate two royalties from Spotify. You get your royalties you get paid for, which are the master rights, but the publishing, the writers, Spotify collect that in the background, play it to your publishing rights organization. And it's like, where does that go then? Yeah. And we're not convinced that it's going anywhere.
I don't think the mechanicals are coming to the distros and the publishing royalties aren't going to the PROs.
Because if they
we're
say
not getting them. Like, when an artist says our streams have been removed, we get paid for the streams that are still showing. So where does it go? I mean, if it's anything like the under 1,000 streams system, surely it's probably going back to the top.
The under 1,000 streams goes back in the royalty pool. So that goes in the big royalty pool. But the stuff that they're taking away and saying that the fake streams, we don't know what's happening with that. So if that's going, is that the reason that Spotify are turning a profit now?
Interesting.
Because they only started turning a profit when they brought all these things in.
I think it just keeps going back to how can we find more ways to make this difficult. There's no transparency on any form. And I think the bigger problem is there's no one to hold them accountable. You get what I mean? And I think that's what becomes the issue. Like, how do you, like you said, especially with the publishing stuff, if this money is disappearing somewhere, allegedly that's stealing.
Well, yeah.
You get what I mean?
But the problem is, who has the power? Because the labels are invested in the majors. Yeah. The big artists aren't affected by this. So it's literally independent artists are the only people that are suffering, and we've got so little voice. I think a lot of these problems can be solved by distributors. I think we have a lot more power than we think we do. And I think AI music's a big one. Yeah. A lot of people are just churning out album after album after album of AI music, which is meaning that Spotify is having to store more songs, store more data, the royalty pool gets smaller. Yeah. Who's letting that through?
Well, we're not.
Not us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel, again, it's like, if there's no general, I think there needs to be a general consensus within all distributions, like especially the big boys and the boutique likers of, this is what we think and this is how this is our moral code and our ethos as an industry, and this is how we're gonna approach things. But again, it's like you said, if the majors are coming in and we've got the deal that potentially will be gone ahead with Downtown, now everything changes, because now the big boys are not even independent anymore.
Exactly.
So there's no way for them to stand their ground and say, oh, actually we're gonna stand with the little guys. The interest has changed from the top. You get what I mean? So it becomes a little bit difficult. I think, again, there's no union. There's no set of rules of how this game is played. No. So it's just the Wild West. Anyone decides.
There's bias everywhere you look. Literally everywhere you look.
Well, I think you see, it's the thing about Spotify is it's their game. They make the rules.
Yeah.
You know, you sort of like, if you want to release on their platform, you play by their rules.
You play by their rules.
But if we're focusing on what artists can do to avoid it, I mean, I'd like to get your take, Steve, but what I always say to artists is, especially in like the first few weeks after release, focusing really heavily on what you're getting added to. Check your playlist every single day. There's a really good website called artist.tools where you can copy and paste the URL for any playlist you get added to, and it will scan it and basically tell you if they're kind of finding any bots. Yeah. If they do, I believe you can report it,
Yeah, on your Spotify.
on your
for
Spotify
artists,
for
yeah.
artists. So you can do that. That's not going to completely fix it, but
Yeah.
it
I mean,
does.
is that just snitching on yourself? Because part of me is like,
Well, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just have this distrust of Spotify that it's just like, because I'm like, do I trust you when I'm reporting the problem to you? Or are you just going to penalize me for reporting the problem?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, it is that thing of like, they've got the playlist reporting, but you haven't seen loads of stuff. I spend far too much of my life on Reddit, and I've seen loads of stuff of people saying, "Yeah, I reported it, and then I lost the streams, and now I've got a strike." And then I mean, the whole thing about the strikes is kind of that. That's a whole nother level of undercurrents there, because other distributors, not us, will say to people, "Yeah, you've got a penalty." And I've seen loads of people saying, "Oh, yeah, I got a penalty from the distributor," and I say, "Oh, did you get your streams taken away?" No, it's like, well, that's not real. That's your distributor
Deciding.
saying, I'm taking money off you. Spotify haven't done that.
Yeah.
Because Spotify take your streams away. I've seen a few people
I
complain
think that's
about
another
that.
thing that
So you're
then,
getting done in twice.
Yeah, you do.
I think there needs to be another thing then where, because at the moment the communication between in regards to anything that seems fraudulent or seems iffy or whatnot, it's just between Spotify and the distributor, which then means that if Spotify is in cohorts with the distributor, cohorts, is that the right word?
Cool.
Cahoots.
Cahoots.
Spotify is in the cahoots
Cahoots.
with the distributor, especially again when we go back to the downtown deal. Let's say now you're with CD Baby or whatever. Whoever owns CD Baby owns a percentage of Spotify. Again, no other industry will allow this amount of juice monopolization of the industry kind of thing.
It's
But
inbred.
yeah, like but
It might not, though, because they've still got to go through. There was a thing raised in the EU, so in the EU, it might not be owned by Universal. They've got to go through the whole competitions thing to see if they're allowed to do it.
yeah. But it kind of goes to thing where Spotify doesn't communicate directly with the artist.
No.
Spotify doesn't say, we found this thing on your song that might be fraudulent. We've reported to your distributor. They just
This is what you need to do.
this is what you need to do. They just go straight to the distributor, which means the distributor can turn around and just lie to you and say, actually, this song is we're gonna take your stream. Spotify might not even have said anything.
No, well, there's two levels. So we get preemptive streaming things. We get preemptive like this could be dodgy, and we can look into it. But other people are running preemptive systems. But if they run that preemptive system, they don't know when they're going to be like, we're taking your music down because we think Spotify might fine you, and you're probably not going to make enough money to pay that fine, so bye. And they'll just completely take everything down. But if you do that and then you find people that say, well, hang on.
Yeah. I mean, have we ever done, because I know one of the things I say to artists when they're coming over to us is, we will fight your corner. Have we ever won? Have we ever fought?
God, no. Away, man. No, you literally cannot make a case unless you've got a massive case to make. They do not care about an artist losing 5,000-6,000 streams.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're kind of like, if you've got a big streaming artist and you can go there and say, here's the bill. This is what I paid Meta ads. This is what I paid on Google ads. This is what I paid here. You could make a case then, but you've got to remember
what you're
one
saying
thing.
now
It goes
is
back into what we
impossible.
always
You
say,
can't
like-
win then.
No, I mean, it's one thing to always remember about Spotify. They are a tech company who just happen to be doing music. It's just incidental.
Yeah.
They don't care about music. You've seen Daniel Ek talk about it, but he analogized it to like FIFA and the amount of professional footballers and amateur footballers. Just like
And he
no
referred
clue.
to,
Huge
he
disconnect.
referred to music as content. didn't
Yes, he calls
Yeah.
it content.
he? Calls it
yeah.
content, which
There's
is
a kind of
insane.
massive disconnect.
Because for me, it just feels quite hopeless then, doesn't it?
Well, this is what
Yeah, but we're in a current. Sorry, Alice.
I was just going to say. I think this will segue us really nicely into the next section, because we can talk about how Spotify is creating all these problems for artists, how the independents don't get listened to, but I think it's important to focus on what can we do that we can control, because Spotify make the rules, as you say. Spotify might take 6,000 streams away from you. So what about Spotify isn't the focus? We always say, I think it's important that artists treat Spotify as a shop floor. And that's actually your phrase. So
I use
I've stolen
window,
that.
but we'll use floor.
Oh, shop window. Shop
it's cool.
window. It's shop window, isn't it?
Yeah, shop floor. But
So-
there could be a window that's mounted on a floor.
Could be, depending on what kind of shop you want. But yeah, Spotify is the place for people to easily access your music. But too many people see Spotify as the product, when Spotify isn't the product. The product is merch. The product is tickets to gigs. The product is, pieces of like collectibles. Mailing lists. There's so many better ways to make money, but so many people think it's literally just, I want to release an album and I want people to stream that album. So I'll go to Instagram or TikTok and say, go and stream my album.
Yeah.
And they're the artists that end up getting really stung when stuff like this happens on Spotify because it's all they have. It's all they have. Yeah, if that happens to an artist that's got 300 people in a Discord, they're having one-to-one conversations with and selling merch to and making a decent living off. Like take Shao, for example. He's streaming well on Spotify, but he doesn't really focus on it because he makes a complete living off creating manga and creating merch. He travels
Comic-Con stuff.
Exactly, he travels across the world doing what he loves.
Yeah.
Yet he's put so little time into really manipulating Spotify and pushing Spotify. He's kind of done it the other way around, and I think that's what not enough artists are realising. Like, Spotify is working against us.
Yeah.
But instead of trying to fight it,
find another route.
What can we do to take that control back?
Got to flow with it, haven't you? If they treat you as content, treat them as content.
Exactly.
Treat them the same way they
treat you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that going into that segue is great, but just before we go into that, is there an issue though? Because it seems Spotify is the only problem. There's so many other DSPs. Why do we not have the same issues with Apple?
Well, the free tier is easy manipulatable. So if you've got a free tier, you can have like streaming farms on the free tier. So Deezer have got a problem with it at the minute. We're seeing a lot more on Deezer coming through. Yeah. People are like paying for certain playlists on Deezer, but it's a growing problem on Deezer where Spotify is the original. So everybody figured out how to use Spotify. They figured out like the noise content, which has been demonetized. Well, much lower monetization. And people were like, yeah, I can do that. I can upload a track every day or a track every two tracks every day or whatever and game the algorithm. So it then thinks I'm great. That's the algorithm being rubbish. But they kind of just learn this is what you do. And they learn they could make good money out of it. So
I guess the whole like bot farm industry, Spotify must make a killing out of that because a lot of these bot farms, they're all free accounts, aren't they? Yeah. Otherwise it wouldn't be a very profitable business for the people running them. So if they're all on free accounts, that means the free account, like percentage of free accounts to paid accounts is going to be increased. And they're getting money every time from the companies that are running ads on the free account.
For the free accounts, yeah.
So get more users.
Yeah.
So maybe surely
there's by the way, so there's an incredibly interesting video. So I should maybe advertising somebody else's channel, but Andrew Southers, who does a lot of stuff on YouTube, interviewed the guy who's got Beat Dap. And he talked about there's a huge organised crime thing around fake streaming as well.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine millions they will be making.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't gotta sell the white, just sell some music on Spotify.
Yeah. Well, it's a really easy way to move money around. Because you can even pay for accounts and do it. So you don't necessarily have to have free accounts because if it's money laundering, international money laundering, that people are doing a certain thing, you can even pay for the accounts because you just got to launder that money. Honestly, I go check out the thing. It's fascinating.
That's crazy.
I was just like,
but Spotify must be making a killing from this industry.
Yeah. I mean,
well, they're profitable now.
The
Blitz scaled their way to.
But even if you look at it this way, then who is doing the checks? Then is it AI that's doing? Because it's not a human being. What's determining the flags? Because like with us, this is an actual human being that goes through all the accounts every Monday, and we see what's an anomaly, and then we do
in the dodgy feckers group chat.
Yeah.
Very professional.
And we go through it and we do all of that. But for Spotify, it's probably just an AI. They just they just. So it means that mistakes can be made then.
Well, mistakes are made. We know.
And then there's no way for you to appeal that or.
Yeah. You just sort of at the. I think with Spotify, the people who were the original are all gone. So the ones who are the innovators who built quality algorithms like you sort of discover weekly and all that sort of thing are all done now.
Seems to be happening at a lot of companies.
I mean, hey, this is the AI thing. I've got nothing against the AI. We all use it day to day.
Of course, I think AI is great to be used as a tool.
It's a companion.
Yeah, the problem is when it becomes the creation. I think that's when AI
it becomes I'm
about to open a massive can of worms, so I feel like I maybe shouldn't.
Well, I mean, hey, there's not necessarily because there's a lot of feeling on AI, right, with music. So it's like the industry is pushing AI, but musicians, we use it as a tool, because it's cool. It's great as a tool. It can help you. It can do things, but they're trying to use it to replace people on the back of those people's work.
Yeah.
That's what's so wrong. And I was talking about this on a panel at a university last year, and we were saying, obviously, we all know AI is built on knowledge. It's built on stuff that humans have made, whether that's articles or websites. But if we're talking AI music, it's based on records that have been written by real people. But how would you follow the trail?
Yeah.
You
And how do
can't.
compensate.
You can't. It's not a case of people can't earn royalties off ChatGPT, because if you ask it to make a pop song, it's probably taken in 5,000 songs into consideration. How do you give the artists their royalties for that? But if we do AI en masse, that is a lot. Will be a hell of a lot of music.
Yeah.
That's
I
getting
think
copied,
it goes
isn't it?
down to one thing with the industry, and they've always done this, and you've seen the labels do it over and over again, is they will find a bottom ground. How do you do this cheaper than everyone else? Because labels, at the end of the day, they are a company, and it's all about, they have board of directors. The board of directors doesn't matter. They don't care whether you make 20 million last year. They need to know that you've made more than 20 million this year. That's how big companies work. So again, it's how do you create something that takes away how much your overhead cost is. I don't have to pay a writer now. You get what I mean? So that's why the industry itself is pushing this.
Yeah, but
Know.
You've got to take into consideration the only way the labels make money is if fans buy music or buy products.
I don't think they think of it like that.
No.
Yeah, but that is the only way they make money. Like, whether we're talking like streaming or shows or whatever, there has to be real people
Yeah.
listening to music in whatever way for the labels to make money. And I genuinely don't think, I think we're definitely not there. I don't know whether we're ever going to get there, at a place where young people are going to be like heavily buying into AI music. Yeah, they might stream it on a playlist. They might have a playlist of AI music. They chuck on mouse to doing things, but where they're actually spending £100 a year on an artist, you're not going to get that with AI. So surely the labels will never sign an AI artist in that way.
I think that.
But
on a level where they're making
going back to what you were saying,
significant
though,
money.
Vic, that one of the duties of a director is to run the company for the benefit of the shareholders.
Yeah.
That's
It's literally that. So for them, the way they're seeing this is it doesn't matter whether the money is coming from music. Their thing is, if we can show that there is a growth and profit growth to
Yeah,
the
of
shareholders. So now, for example, if we go to what's happening with Suno AI and all of this stuff, and even the Downtown deal, the main aim of it is not the music, it's the copyrights.
Yeah, the catalogue.
You get what I mean? It's the catalog. It's okay if we want to do a song for TV, or because don't forget, Netflix and content creation is one of the only industry that is exponentially growing.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? When you're putting a song behind a film or any of that stuff, they don't care whether it's AI. They just need music behind it.
So what you're saying is the labels don't really care, because as long as the music can make the money in ways it isn't fans.
Exactly.
Look at the way labels sign now, right? The sign TikTok trending, the sign
It
Insta trending.
happens to our artists.
Yeah.
I got 2 emails from 2 different major labels that were literally, I thought I was getting scammed. They were written the exact same on Thursday night at like 9:45 in the evening. The exact same thing about the same song. We can see it starting to really go viral, and it wasn't even.
Yeah, they can.
Doing all right,
it's like there's no data points. There's data points that triggers things.
But it's like they can see stuff before it's going to happen, and they want to strike at that exact moment, because we had a meeting with them a couple of weeks later. They just went quiet again, and I was like, they've seen something that we haven't. So that means that they're signing artists based on metric rather than based on brand or fans or anything.
I think that's what's changed. And I feel like obviously Lucy Grange is this. I mean, it's like a mafia boss thing now. You have a father and a son running 2 of the biggest labels in the world. Crazy. But one focal point of one of the ways they're running it is that it's data. And I feel like it kind of goes back to what we're saying, that if you want to beat Spotify at that game, data becomes your point.
Yeah.
How much data? Like, I think people don't understand that the future of this game is tech. How do you use tech to gain as much information and data so you can use that then to decide how you move? You get what I mean? So if we go back to even something as simple, like you said, as a mailing list, it might seem such an ancient concept, but having a mailing list means it's a real person.
Yeah.
First of all, you can't have an email without verifying it. You get what I mean? So that means there's a real person. That person will probably have their age, where they live, all of those things in place. It kind of goes like there's a guy called Damien. I can't remember his name now. Quite a big guy. He did a lot of stuff with like NWA and all of that. It's quite good on Instagram. And one of the things he says to artists is understanding that when you're being signed by a label, they're not signing you for your song. They're signing you for data.
Yeah, of course.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So once you start to understand that as yourself as an artist, is that my selling point is my data.
But not only understanding that my selling point is my data, but understanding that I need to have full control of that data.
Yeah.
And not have that in the hands of anyone else.
Anyone else,
and that's
yeah.
why we say when we work with artists, the goal isn't getting one person to stream your song, it's getting to find out how to connect with that person, getting their email address, knowing their age, knowing their interests, because then you can replicate that.
That you can have that avatar.
Exactly.
And when they give you an email, they're taking an action to invest in you.
Exactly.
Whereas they stream your song on Spotify, that could be in the background. There's nothing.
That's just you at the gym. You get what I mean? Kind of thing.
That's forgetting all of the crap we just spoke about Spotify and how you've got like literally no control and they can take all your streams away overnight.
Well, email you can control. That's the whole thing of like,
exactly.
why would you put it? And I know we do help people with this, but you know, you're putting money behind things out of your control. So you're saying, all right, I'm going to put money into Insta, I'm going to put TikTok, I'm going to put it in. They could change an algorithm overnight. You're done. But they could ban your account through something that's not your fault.
That's something that we've seen. We did a 6-week campaign with an artist. It was going really, really well. Algorithms were building, his views were building. Literally the night before release day, his account got hacked. And it was like, sign up to my course and all this all over his stories the day before. Yeah. And that was a big deal for that artist. But if that artist had a WhatsApp group with 100 people in, a Discord with 150 people and a 300 email chain, that's like 600-700 people he can contact like that. Without Instagram, without TikTok, without Spotify. It's direct artist to fan, and I think that is like the most important thing artists need to be focusing on at the minute, because there's so much going on with the Spotify stuff and the bots and the AI and Instagram accounts getting taken down. I mean, even TikTok Live, like the rules on TikTok Live, we had an artist that got shadow banned for like 4 weeks and they also couldn't go live because they said, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't like a swear word or anything. It was one of the banned words. They got banned for ages. And like artists are putting all of their faith in these massive companies and massive DSPs, and they're literally putting their careers in the hands of these companies.
And they're putting the career in the hand of an algorithm, not a human.
Exactly.
Not a human who looks at it and goes,
because literally it's that.
This is legit.
Yeah,
and this
you
is
could wake up tomorrow and the whole rule changes.
Yeah.
I think right now, if you're an artist, your biggest thing right now and what you should be literally going into a deep dive of is direct artist to fan. That is the biggest thing in the industry right now. Every tech company that's interested in music right now is trying to figure out their way of creating a platform that enables you to go directly to fan. So if you're an artist, that should be the most important thing for you right now. How do I build a community, no matter how small? Even set yourself a 30 people goal. How do I build a community of 30 people that I can connect with directly, continuously, and build something with them? And I think first of all is, what are you giving that's of value? I'm sorry, your song is not a value. Not like,
that's a favour.
and it's literally that. Like, people have this warped perception that, because I make great music, it's a value. You're competing against 80,000, 100,000 a day.
Yeah.
They have options. The consumer has options. Options are a free account. They don't even need to pay for those options. They can have a free account and have access to the options. So your song is not a value to them. And it's such a hard thing to take on as a creative, because you've put so much time and effort and all.
It's what being a creative's about.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
But
it's like a part of you, isn't it? It's like
it's just the reality of it. Your song is not a value.
Yeah.
So you got to find something else that is of value. Yeah. For someone to say, I am going to leave Instagram or leave TikTok and come to your community, whether that's on Discord, WhatsApp, Twitch, wherever you want to host this community.
But I think this sort of like artist to fan thing is so much more powerful than social media, because, you know, like when TikTok and stuff started, I remember having a conversation with the artist that I managed, and I was like, it's TikTok or nothing. Like, if you don't get on board now, you're never going to grow in the way you want to. And he ended up doing it, and he did really well off the back of it, but he had to get into that mindset of like, my creativity and my art is in one place, my socials and my TikTok is something I just have to do. And I think a lot of artists have that mindset of it's not authentic, it's not real, I don't enjoy making it, it feels very cringy, it feels very influencery. Whereas I think the artist fan stuff is when creators can be creators again, because they can make art, they can do whatever. There's no rule as long as you find the right people. You kind of have to follow Instagram and TikTok's rules in order to do like the wide net casting, like we say, to reach these big audiences. But once you get them down to a real fan, even if it's 10 people, you can do whatever the fuck you want with those 10 people, and you can be creative.
It's this thing, isn't it? Like a great content creator is incredibly rarely going to be a great artist. And a great artist is incredibly rarely going to be a great content creator. So they just need help.
Yeah,
exactly.
You need to kind of learn.
Figure out one side of it, kind of thing. But I think once you bring it into the community, like I said, the great thing is you can then be an artist again.
That's what I'm saying. Like it gives you that power back, and you're not relying on, oh well, I have to use this filter because the Instagram algorithm doesn't like it when I, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I have to use this
there's no
hush words
algorithm,
or this SEO or whatever. Yeah,
there's no rules and nothing can change. Like you can't wake up one day and be like, okay, well, selling this merch doesn't work anymore because my fans, you know what I mean, have changed their minds. Like it doesn't work out when you're working with real people. And I think the whole structure needs to be Spotify's your shop floor. That's where people can go and stream your music to get to know you as an artist and consume the music. Instagram and TikTok is where you can. We always say social media is literally just cheap marketing. Yeah. Right? If you play your cards right, you play the algorithms right, you make really great content, you can reach 100,000 people for free. Yeah. If you're doing that on a crap piece of content, that can cost what? However much?
100,000 people.
Good
£500.
Yeah,
you know?
£400-500 I'd say. So why would you waste the money when you can just play TikToks and Instagram's rules? So that's one thing, understanding how to do that and being okay with that, because a lot of artists are like, I want to go against the grain, I want to do my own thing, and I'm like, that's all well and good, but then you're just screaming into the abyss. But what not enough people are realising is what comes after that. People are just doing the TikTok, having the viral moments, but there's nothing. There's
no funnel to bring them
funnel.
to
they're not being brought to anything.
Yeah, funnels. Right? I mean, I think this is the thing where we talk about funnels all the time, non-stop, and that is a funnel. You get 100,000 people. That's the top of the funnel. You have to get them to the next level, and the only way you get them to the next level is by having more content. Yeah, having something to draw them in. You have no matter what you're doing, if you want to be mysterious, create a mystery. Yeah, you need to learn how to write stories. You need to learn how to create a mystery around it. Yeah, and then do that. You can't just look, I've got a mask on, I'm going to be like Deadmauss and get massive. It's like
doesn't work like that.
There needs to be a story behind it.
And I think not enough artists are understanding as well that if you could have the best song ever written, it could be an absolute hit. Post it on TikTok saying new music out Friday. It's not going to get. It's just not going to get views, and that's because I don't know how much of it's algorithm and how much it is people are getting so used to ads. But
I think a bit of both.
If anyone has spent more than 5 minutes on Instagram and TikTok, you're getting sold something every 2 seconds. Even on TikTok, it might not be an ad, but it's a commission paid. Yeah. Go buy this toaster. Go buy this hair product. Go buy this whatever. So, I mean, I do it. I'll go through Instagram and I'll be scrolling and I will scroll off something before my brain's even registered what I'm looking at and I'll go back and I'll be like, oh yeah, that was an ad. So we're all getting so wise to ads, right? And your content will get pushed if people are watching it for 5 seconds over 0.2 seconds, So you need to be, when you're hitting those algorithms and you're hitting new audiences, they need to be watching it for an extended period of time. And if they think it's an ad, they're gone. And then that's it, the algorithm's not pushing you anymore. Yeah. So when artists are creating content, it needs to not look like an ad. And even saying, go stream my song, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing it. When I see an artist saying, go stream my song, and I'm like, can you really not be, you're a creative. Yeah. You are a creative person. Would you not think of something else other than go and stream my song, link in bio, it's been overdone and overdone. So we always say to artists, and I understand when they don't like to hear it, but the way to get views is to step outside of music. It's to find something that is very, very recognisable and familiar, because the second someone sees something new, they're like, no, I don't know what this is. Why has it been sent to me? There's no connection. I'm going to find something else that makes me laugh or whatever. So finding the brand outside of music is really important, and then that's where you start the funnel. So say you're an artist that loves cooking. You start making cooking content, quick recipes, high protein meals, They start getting 30, 40, 50, 60,000 views. You then take a response of that like one of the comments, create another piece of content, but instead of whilst you're cooking, you're doing a cover at the same time, right? And then everyone's like, oh, you're an artist as well, no way. I like you for your cooking videos, but I also like, what was that? What was that? But I also like the fact you're a singer, but you start with a cover because again, it's recognisable, it's familiar, it's something people know.
Pattern, isn't it?
It's
The brain-
literally, yeah.
The brain is only going to latch onto something that there's pattern to. But yeah, continue, sorry.
And then you take that format again, that's worked, okay, cool, now I need to bring my music into it. Step 3 is you're in the exact same format, in the same room, same lighting, so people are very used to it, and they're like, okay, I've seen this before. The algorithm knows that this piece of content has worked twice in the past, it's probably going to work again, but instead you're doing your own song, right? And that's when you can start saying in the comments, this is my music, this is how you find it. Click the link or DM me and I'll send you a link. And that's when you can get people to go to Spotify. By that point, you've probably lost 70% of the people at the top. 30% then go to your Spotify. Cool, you've got a few streams or whatever. How many people are then going to come to your show that you do in Manchester? Maybe like two at a push. So the whole thing is, if you're getting 2% of the big number at the very, very start of that whole thing, you want them to be hitting
Do as many as
But
possible.
this is
1,
sales.
2, 3 million views.
It's
yeah.
sales. You're talking
Literally.
about sales process, and your standard sales process is like maybe 1%. Nobody gets 5%. 1% to 4% if you're lucky. So if you base it on 1% conversion rate, 1,000 people, you're going to get 10 people. Great.
Yeah. And it's literally, and this is what I say to people, like, this is something I've always done all my life. So when I first started music, I spoke to some of the people I really kind of looked up to and stuff, and the first thing they said to me is, you need 10 years before you're going to be achieving anything. And I said to myself, well, I don't have 10 years to waste, so I'm going to do it in 5. The best way to do it in 5 is to do double the work. You get what I mean? So everyone else is doing 5 hours a day, I'm going to do 10 hours a day. And it's the same thing that, if you're only getting 1% or 2% conversion, do double the work. Instead of doing 1 video a week, do 5 videos a week. Guess what? Your 1% now is a higher number.
Exactly.
That's literally
say you're
it.
reaching 10,000 people every video you put out, and you put out once a week, that's 40,000 people a month. Say you do 7 a week.
Quick maths.
280,000.
Yeah.
I think.
You get what I mean? And then the 1% of that is
It's bigger.
vastly different. And it's literally that, like, you can't skip the work.
But you also have to not just put content out. You've got to think of what you're doing with the people you get. You've got to have like a
That's
funnel
the destination.
process.
And I feel that's where most people, because
They fall
right
down.
now, so obviously we do consultation services, and it's probably our best selling services, product.
100%.
People love it. Like, for a lot of them, it's kind of like life-changing kind of things. But a lot of the questions we get is about, how do I go viral? How do I go viral? And I've never had someone say, what do I do at the end of being viral?
What happens after going viral?
Yeah.
Anyone
I feel
can
like
go viral.
Yeah.
What do you do at the end of it then?
Where do you put them?
Where do you put them?
I feel like artists fall into 2 categories, and neither's great. It's the ones that go stream my song, and then they go, social media shit, because no one views my no one wants to listen to my music and it's shit. And I'm like, well, that's because your content's crap. Or you've got the people that are really good at making content and they get millions of views, but they can't sell a show out in that local city, and they can't get people to actually connect with them on a deeper level, and it's all just like surface level stuff, and they don't actually make that much money. So the artists that are doing the great content but also have somewhere to put these people and somewhere to do direct selling, I've found that's actually like so rare that you
it's
get people
very,
that
very
have
rare.
both.
I think it's because the mentality has never been, I think, and I sound old, but this new generation, the mentality has never been about actual product at the end of it. The mentality has been about the surface level of, I look successful, rather than being successful.
But I think that comes from a place of younger artists. It's so easy, it's so accessible nowadays. Anyone can get GarageBand and get a little plug-in mic,
Download a few
loops, and make a track, right? It's so accessible that I think a lot of people aren't realising how much money you can actually make from this. I think back in the days where you couldn't even sell an album until you'd inputted real big money into it. Because you've already spent a lot, you need to make that money back. Whereas now there are these young kids that are just like, oh yeah, I just put songs up because I like it. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand that you can make a real viable,
living
long-term,
from this
successful business out of this.
Yeah.
And I think people aren't realizing that you can make that money, so their strategies aren't based around money.
yeah.
And instead, well, I'm not going to make money out of this. It doesn't cost me anything to do, but at least I can look cool to my mates when I hit 1 million views. You know
I get
what
you mean. Yeah, I think there's also a misconception that when you mention business, a lot of creatives get a bit weird about it for some
Yeah,
reason.
true.
This is the business industry, man. I'm sorry, unless you don't. Because the thing is, I don't get how you can have both. How do you say you want to pay your bills doing what you love, but you don't want to see this as a business?
Well, one thing I always say when I'm doing the training is your manager treats it like a business, your promoter treats it like a business, your label treats it like a business. So if you don't treat it like a business, you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
Simple.
So true.
That, oh my God, that is... Yeah. that is literally, it's literally that. If you don't treat it like a business, sooner or later,
Someone
you're
else
gonna,
will.
you're going to lose big money. Yeah. Kind of thing. And I think it's that, for me, I feel like is a combination of misinformation and just no information about how do you treat your music as a business. I think understanding that is everything.
I feel like, I don't know if you might want to cut this out. I don't know if this is a bit controversial, but I think there is a real problem with how entitled some artists are.
I don't think it needs cutting. I think the truth is the truth.
But that's the thing. The amount of artists that I see that genuinely believe their music is good enough that it should sell itself. And I can't wrap my head around why artists think that. Like, you could have Ed Sheeran and Elton John write you a song. If you put it out as a black screen on Instagram with just the audio playing, I can guarantee it's going to get 5 views. I can just guarantee it.
I get it, right? Yeah, because, you pour yourself into something and you get, like, what comes out of it, you're like, this is brilliant. But you also need to take a reality check and just, like, not other people don't think it's brilliant. You've got to make them care.
But it's not even that other people... Like, we're in an industry now where it's not even about whether it's brilliant at the early stages. Because, like I said, like, you could have an unbelievable song that if it was played in an arena, everyone would go mental for it. You could have that in a song, but it's like there's a layer of algorithms that you have to get through.
But how many people think you've got to fake it till you make it?
Yeah.
Right. And is that like the symptom?
I think a big part of it as well is that as much as we think this is new, as much as we think this Instagram and all this stuff is old, it's very, very new. And there's still a perception in a lot of artists' minds of the kind of blanket that was on the eyes of a lot of artists before this came out. So a lot of artists about 6-7 years ago didn't know how much the label was doing behind the scene to market them. You get what I mean? So in their head is, well, I've never had to do anything for my song to do well, not realizing the label is spending so much money putting you on billboards, doing marketing, you get what I mean, doing sales, doing all of this stuff, even just taking your songs to H&M, HMV, you get what I mean? HMV to have you on the physical places, floor. You get what I mean, on the shop floor. That billboard and that shop floor now is just Instagram.
But again, I think this comes back to accessibility, because to an artist that's maybe, sorry, Steve, sort of like between 40 to 60 years old, like apart from Steve. Steve doesn't count, like Steve gets it.
Feels
like,
so seen.
They're from an industry where just being able to sell your music to a stranger is like really successful because of what that takes to get there.
Yeah, because of how much work you've had to put
and
in.
how much money, and like, you know, when we were in like a physical world, it was, unless you get randomly scouted at an open mic night and everything changes overnight, you're either one or the other. Whereas now there's this massive spectrum of, you can get music online, you can get like when I go to gigs and stuff, and it's generally like older guys, and I say I manage artists and stuff, and I say, oh yeah, they've got songs on Spotify. They're like, wow, you've got music on Spotify, that's amazing, like you're doing so well. And I'm like, no, anyone can put music on Spotify.
That. So in this section, we're going to react to some stuff, some industry news. There's all this crazy stuff online, so this should be fun. We don't know what it's going to be yet, so take it away, Mr.
Take it away, Connor. Ed Sheeran writes urgent open letter to Keir Starmer for music education funding. The time to act is now.
The gist of what we're looking at is Ed Sheeran calling for money going into music education.
Yeah.
And we're like, so what we've been talking about already, right? It's like the fact that all this big music stuff, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. But basically what's happening is grassroots music is dying.
Yeah.
It's absolutely dying. The labels, they don't care because they're picking up stars from TikTok, Instagram. But without grassroots music, there's no stars of the future. You know?
I mean, I've seen a couple of people post about it. And the general consensus that I'm getting is now is not the time, which kind of frightens me a little bit because some of the people that posted it were creatives themselves, like really successful creatives that I know and I work with. But it's just like, there's so much issues in the country right now when it comes to so many other things. Is this where money should be going? And I'm like, bro, without music, like, let's take it back to lockdown. What got us through one of the worst period of human, you get what I mean?
It was art.
It was art
games,
that got
it was
us through these
film,
things.
It was music.
And I feel like
creative
we
scene.
forget that sometimes, that art is a right that every human being should have access to.
And it's a fabric of society.
Yeah,
it's like
literally.
it makes everything around you. If you lose the creativity and art around you, that's when society crumbles.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what it is in that sense. I think the UK has not had a global smash hit in God knows how long. We're losing, like, they used to look to the UK as this is a place where stars are made. But I feel like it's right, it's that grassroots, but we need to actually go into the education side of it. I go into some schools and I'm like, you're still trying to teach kids how to play piano? And as much as important that is, like, we're in a digital world. Like, how do you not have DAW suites in the studios?
But the music budget is the first budget to go. That's the budget that they say, oh, we can do without that. So
Doesn't that even affect the developmental stage of kids as well?
Yeah, totally.
Oh my god, 100%. We interviewed Ian from the music club in Sheffield, and he was talking about that and how much they're trying to put funding into getting young kids to play an instrument.
Yeah.
Because like when I was a kid in primary school, we do 6 weeks, and every single person in the school would be playing violin.
Yeah.
Probably sounded horrendous, but like. Everyone played a musical instrument. All the lads, all the girls. They might have been crap at it, but everyone got that access to that. And I feel like you don't get that in the average sort of state primary school now.
I think there's still that mentality as well that we don't have real jobs.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? As much as people want to pretend, like, there's still that snobbery thing of creatives don't have real jobs. Like, you're not actual working.
I'm going to quote Frank's thing here again. So there's a whole thing, if you go and do music at college, how many people end up with a job in music? Because you're doing music as well as doing a job that pays the bills.
I will say, though, I think the music education system is so flawed. And I don't know how, like, I assume the reason for lack of music education funding is because they're pulling that budget elsewhere.
Yeah.
But 5 years ago, I went to music college. Same one Ed Sheeran went to, actually, because he went to Access Creative, and he always goes back to
What
the
went
one.
wrong for you?
I know. Well done. Cheers, Steve. Thanks. But I remember I got a phone call about 3 years after I left from one of my old tutors. Yeah, we're just checking in on students. I wonder what you're doing now. And I told him what I was doing, and I said I'd got a job at a label, and I was also managing artists and doing gigs still. Honestly, he sounded like he was going to drop the phone.
Yeah.
Because every single person I went to college with, there's not a single one I know that is still doing music. Everyone stopped. They're all in completely different fields now. I mean, some really talented artists, and they don't even get in the studio for fun anymore.
Yeah.
And is that because the jobs aren't there, or is it because we're being taught the wrong things in school?
I think there's a lack of business training.
Yeah.
That's what I think the problem is.
So you are business minded, right?
Yeah.
So you've got an entrepreneurial brain, entrepreneurial spirit, but not many people do. But you can teach them. But it's like when I was at music college, we had to do business, and that was some time ago, and it was absolutely awful. It was the most dull, boring, awful thing, and I was just like, yeah, business isn't for me. And then I left music and I realised, business is for me.
Yeah.
I've started
Yeah.
several companies, and it's like,
I think it's so interesting because we all have that same experience. Like when I was at uni, and like they've asked me to come back and talk, and sometimes I've looked through their curriculum, and I'm like, you guys are doing a disservice to these kids because they don't understand that when they leave and walk into the real world, it's different. You're not even teaching them how to manipulate Instagram, TikTok, understanding this new world. You're still telling them to get a business card. Who the hell has a business card? You know what I mean? Like, but then it's when the teachers don't understand the new world either.
I did a talk at a university, and the course leader came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh, it's amazing. I didn't know a lot of that stuff." I'm like, "Well,
that happened to me as well. I find it really hard when I get asked to do panels at universities, because I always get asked the same question: what is the main piece of advice you would give to all these students? And my honest advice would be get up and leave and never come back. And as awful as that sounds, the money you waste, the time you waste, and you get taught advice that's 20 years old. So you end up coming out and going, right, I need to go and hand in my CV at the local record label, even though I want to be a musician, because they think that's the only way to do it.
I think that is it. The time is to act now, but the government actually needs people to advise them about where is the best place to act. Chucking money into the local government and saying, okay, we're going to give Manchester Council 20 million. Manchester Council doesn't know what to do with 20 million. They will just find things that tick the boxes and build certain things. And you get what I mean? Even when you go to the live audience side of things, you get what I mean? The live industry side of things and how that's dying and how many venues are getting closed. They're not getting support from the government. When you look at what Live Nation is doing and the monopolization of the industry that they're doing, there's so many things that the government could do, but it can only be done by people that understand what's happening on the ground and can advise the government on that.
That's so true. I think also the problem with the colleges and stuff is it's a bit of a catch-22, because they don't have enough funding to pay teachers really, really well. So they can't get people that are very, very highly qualified because the salaries are lower. But then the students that come out with not very good knowledge, not very good understanding, then don't go out and get jobs. So they cut the funding even more.
Look at what, like, when we go in and do these things, the money's just like literally covers your expenses.
It's covers your travel,
It's almost never anything.
Because we actually give a shit.
We care. Yeah.
But you're just like, there's no money in it.
So what is it I think it needs to be rewritten. I think they need a completely new curriculum.
Yeah.
And more funding. I also think people have the mindset. People aren't harsh enough nowadays. Like when I went to college, oh my God, some of the talent, it was like there were young 17, 16-year-old girls that we were being told you could make a career in this that cannot stay in tune. Like that point blank can't sing. And that sounds like I'm being awful.
But that's the new industry.
But that is part of the problem,
that is
because
the problem.
50%.
Participation trophy. Everyone can participate and you get a little sticker.
That's what I'm saying. That's the problem. Like 50% of the college I went to, even if they were given the right curriculum, still would never have been able to get the job in the music industry because they just aren't talented. But people are just being like, oh, well done for getting up on stage. That must be really difficult. And that's not enough to make a career. Yeah. Whereas 20 years ago, if you go on X Factor, Simon Cowell goes, you're shit, get off my stage. Like we need to bring that bit of that back. You get it in the football industry. If you're not good enough on the pitch, you're done. Whereas in the music industry, it's just everyone's, oh, well done for trying. I'll support you.
And to kind of spin off that, I know we've gone on about it a bit, but I don't think that's even the end of it. I get it. But to spin off that, that's not to say if you're not talented, that's it. I personally believe that anyone can be good at anything. It just means you got to spend 3, 4, 5 times as much work. You get what I mean?
But no, everyone's too scared to say that.
Yeah, you get what I mean? Like,
honestly,
you're out of tune, but if you spend the next 10 years, well, not 10 years, the next 10 months really, really training, you will be in tune. Yeah. But everyone's just like, oh, it was nice getting on stage, well done.
Because it's never enough time, is it? Because I remember doing a masterclass with Sarah Landry, techno, and she talked about how many hours it was, like sort of 4,000 hours or something. And somebody I knew was on it, and she was just like, I can't put that time in. I was like, you can. She's put her time in, so she was able to do a masterclass and just go bang, 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 and just like show everybody, like people are like, whoa. But you've got it. If you don't get enough time at college or uni.
Next question.
Headline number 2. Desperate Justin Bieber was on the verge of financial collapse before selling music catalogue for $200 million.
Justin Bieber. Big boy Justin Bieber. Nah, that's pissing me off. What? Bro, Justin was the height of this industry. Like, you didn't get bigger than Justin. So, I mean,
still do you get bigger than Justin Bieber?
Yeah. I think first thing is, how do you run out of money? Second thing is, who convinced you that 200 million is okay? 200 million for your catalog. 200 million, bro. They'll give you more than that for an advance. Like, how desperate must you have been to sell your catalog?
What kind of
for 200
catalog are we
million?
talking though?
I think all his catalog.
To who?
To a label. So I think it's still first of all, 200 million for Justin Bieber's catalog is
You're like,
mad.
how do you run out of money? Like, bro's like fighting for his life and his mental health.
I think first of all, it goes
Global
back
pandemic.
to the way the industry is structured. We have a thing where everyone says, yeah, don't matter what deal you sign, as long as you can make money from touring. But like you said, what happens when COVID hits? Or when your mental health hits? Or your voice, or something happens where you can't talk? It makes no business sense that there's only one way or one revenue for an artist to make money.
Yeah. Well, it's like what we were saying earlier about the control thing. Like, artists need to have different revenue streams in different areas and stuff. So if global pandemic hits, you can go on Twitch and connect with millions of fans and get loads of money and blah, 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 blah. Or if you get sick and you can't sing or you end up in hospital, you've got an entire clothing brand that's ticking away because someone else is running it off the back of your name.
You get to that size, you should have people who are doing that for you, right?
Well,
you should be like, your people are going, yeah, we're all right. Like, who goes out and just spends all the money and then goes, oh, yeah, I've got nothing left now. You've got to have somebody up there who's going, yeah, you've got 10 million, where this tour is going to cost you 5, but you're going to make 8, but we'll make sure it's capped at 5.
Yeah.
We'll watch all the costs for you. So if somebody's not doing that.
But I think when you're that, I always say that people always wait till they're that big before putting these things in. Putting these things in at the foundation is so important because you can go from this to that so quick. You get what I mean? And not having a manager that really understands the industry or understands business, not having an accountant is so like, how are you that big and you don't have an accountant? Or like, I don't even make that much money and I have a financial advisor. I made not even 5% of what Justin is making, and I have a financial advisor who I speak to before I spend anything more than $5,000. If I'm gonna spend anything more than $5,000 on anything, I have to speak to this person that tells me, "Can you afford this?
Can you really afford it?
Can you really afford this?" You get what I mean? Is this gonna affect you in so years?
I think the mental health thing as well, we talk about a lot. Like, artists don't realise how bad it gets until it's bad, I think. Like, the strain it must be on your mental health having to turn up for like millions and millions and millions of people every single day. Like, you can't just disappear off the face of the earth for 2 months and have some time out without telling people why. You can't just, like, if you're having a bad day, you can't just go for a walk in a park to clear your head because you've got fans screwed. Like, that must be so...
I took a conscious decision, not that I was ever going to be a global superstar, but after music college, I was like, I don't want that. I don't even want to work towards that. I'm just away from it because it's horrible.
I could not be an artist. Like, I could not do it. But I feel like there's a bit of a gap in the market for, like, trained professionals who understand how to work with artists on their mental health. Like, you can anyone can go and see a therapist, but I feel like it's such a niche.
It's a different, it's
such
a different game.
Such a niche thing of how do I deal with this kind of pressure on this scale, because someone who isn't an artist is a whole different ballgame. But like, have you ever heard of a music therapist? And I mean like someone that is a therapist for big,
I mean, it's
big
something
artists.
we always advocate. Like, I always say any of these things, because of how labels are set up and because of how the companies are set up, they're always looking at the bottom line. So the only way that we can make change is to lobby the government into making a change. No artist should be signing a contract that is over a certain amount of money in terms of their advance without it stipulating that there's a mental health team attached.
Completely agree.
You get what I mean? The contract, any company making over 500, 600 grand a year in terms of actual profit, not even turnover, should have a mental health team. And
like, obviously, let's be real, like, the labels don't care about your mental health, but they do care when the money stops. Do you know what I mean?
And it's that, and that's what I'm saying. So it's the only way to make them do that is to put those stipulations in place where actually, if you don't give me a mental health team, I can walk away from this deal.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Or I can. You've breached the contract. That's the only time they will start caring.
It should be part and parcel of the media team.
Yeah.
Because they all get media training and kind of like, oh, this is how you need to do this. And that should be part and parcel of it. Because it's like...
But
Someone
I think
you can connect with weekly.
the bigger
who
question...
are trained to give you the right advice on how to do it.
Because it's like every artist wants to be massive and all that, but the loneliness you must feel at that place, because it's like, imagine being one of these people right at the top and literally, who can you trust?
Who can you trust? Who can you even speak to about your experience?
Yeah, I remember
No one
reading
gets
something from
it,
Eminem saying like you can't trust people.
Yeah.
And you can't, because somebody's hanging around you. They're there because you're rich, you're famous, and all that most of the time.
And also, like, imagine going out on stage at like a massive festival and having like tens of thousands of people singing something that is a part of you. Imagine what that does in terms of your adrenaline and your endorphins. Like, a lot of people say that the rush you get off doing like an arena tour is similar to taking like Class A drugs.
Yeah.
And then you crash the next day.
Yeah.
So like, it's the same kind of cycle as...
You might be almost even addicted to it.
Well, exactly.
Well,
Yeah, of
I
course
read a
you
lot
do.
of music biographies, really interested in it, and that's why a lot of them are addicts.
Yeah,
because it
because
is.
They're trying to find something to replace that high.
Yeah. But I feel like with Justin, my main thing is, how is your catalog only 200 million? That's disturbing.
Yeah, that's...
I would need more context on that, because surely...
How much catalogue? Who's it gone to?
Yeah, 200 million. Either they've just made it really... You're really
Like,
desperate.
Surely Baby would cost that on its own.
On its own.
Depends who his
Surely.
co-writers were, though.
Ah,
He had a lot
true.
of co-writers.
That is
and
a
all
very
that.
good point.
Yeah.
Depends what percentage he owns of each song. But even so, 200 million doesn't seem like a lot for Justin Bieber. Have you seen that... I'm going off on a tangent here, sorry, but you've seen that Taylor Swift has bought all her masters back after like 15 years or something. But I wonder how much she bought them for. Do you know?
She must have had a great lawyer for them to allow her to buy it back.
Yeah, because they've not... it's not even been about the money for a long time.
Yeah.
It's been about the control.
Just
I think.
yeah. Next
But
one.
yeah.
Did you have imposter syndrome? And if yes, how did you overcome it?
Great. Can I be controversial?
Yeah.
I don't anymore.
Do you not?
Respect.
I'm trying to be like you know.
Respect.
Well, I tell you, the way that, and I can only speak for myself, is just knowledge. Like, I walked into places where I knew nothing, and I felt like a complete fraud, and it was just like, and then after you do that a little bit, and you're like, right, I'm going to learn all about this.
Yeah.
And once you, and it doesn't work the same for everybody.
Yeah,
But once you learn loads about something, you're like, yeah. And then you realise that all the people out there around you who are like, yeah, giving it the big I am, they know jack shit.
Yeah.
They usually don't have the knowledge, but they just pretend that they do, and they're big about it.
I feel like I can relate to that, because one of my biggest fears was getting asked something in a meeting that I should know the answer to and not knowing the answer. And off the back of that, I went and learned as much as I possibly could. But obviously, I think age is a big factor
massive.
in it.
Yeah.
Because this isn't me being cocky, because the bar is on the floor. But I think I'll be in meetings with people twice my age and I know more than them because I put the work in. But I still don't feel like I deserve to be there because they, in terms of experience, have 25 years on me. But they've got outdated knowledge and they don't understand the current scene and da-da-da-da-da. And I know that what I'm saying is true and I know what I bring to that meeting. But that whole thing of you're a 23-year-old girl, it always gets in the way. And that imposter syndrome does hurt.
Now, a lot of the thing with imposter syndrome, I feel, is the people make you feel that way because their
100%.
attitude. I always try and do it when I'm with people, just like, I don't expect you to know everything. I don't expect it. You've got to learn, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if somebody lays them rules down, you're not going to feel it so much.
chilled.
One thing that's really interesting because I don't think I've ever felt imposter syndrome via my job at Kicker, ever.
Yeah.
With any meeting, any artist, I think that's because we have a culture at work where it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, your age, your gender, anything like that. If you know your shit, you know your shit, and that gets respected. Whereas I'll get on meetings sometimes with like older guys and they're sort of like looking at each other like, and that immediately sets a tone. And it's really hard to not let that get in your head that, oh, maybe, all right, maybe I'm a little bit.
I think sometimes as well, it's like, I think the industry, especially with us, like with our age as well, the industry has progressed so much a few years ago, people like us didn't really have access. So for someone like me, for example, like, yeah, as a producer and engineer, yeah, it's fine. But as a manager, managing an artist that's doing relatively well, or someone who works in distributions, or I mean, we get on meetings and we do like consultations with artists that bring in almost 1 million monthly listeners. You get what I mean? Like, people like us never really were in those rooms. You get what I mean? So even the way they look at you and the way they speak to you straight away, you feel like, oh, I don't feel comfortable in there. We've never really had access to this before, kind of thing. But this is the future, and I try to tell people a lot of times, like and this is me speaking for myself, and people might find it a bit controversial when I get in meetings with artists that come from indie bands and all of this stuff, and their managers and stuff, and I'm telling them, they see you as the urban guy. They see you as the guy that gets the urban scene kind of thing. And I'm like,
The
you don't,
urban guy.
yeah. Like, you don't get where this game is going. You really don't understand where this game is going. And if you don't change or kind of pivot, you're doing your artist a disservice kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think you're right. I think that's something I'm going to focus more on. Getting knowledge. I don't know if it's gonna help, but maybe, yeah, because my imposter syndrome can get so bad sometimes, like really, really bad. And I think it's achieving things you didn't even dream of ever being able to achieve. You get what I mean? Like, it is hard. It is really, really
I feel
hard.
like a lot of the reason why artists get imposter syndrome so much is because of how fast paced the industry is. And an example of that is, we had a meeting with that artist, that older artist, a few weeks back, who had a massive hit in, like, was it the 80s, 90s? Yeah. This guy was like, I don't want to assume his age, but he was an older guy who has done like record breaking kind of sales. And he's asking me how to do his Instagram. And I'm like, I feel like it is offensive, me giving you advice, when you have literally sold like platinum records. But his strategy back then wouldn't fall on deaf ears now, because the label did everything, and everything's changed. So like the younger generations, it's like they don't have that much experience in terms of time, but the knowledge they know right now, the guys with 30, 40 years experience, they're coming to these younger people. So it's kind of working backwards. Yeah. You'd expect me to go to him for advice. Yeah. Because I'm like, you've been in this game for like 30, 40 years. Like, how did you do it? How did you get there? What? But none of that's relevant to me anymore. Yeah. Because it doesn't
work like that anymore. Yeah.
So I think it's very backwards in the way it works. It's like the younger generations with less experience have more knowledge than the older people do.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes imposter syndrome as well just presents itself as other people's voice. Like, I remember when I was starting out and I used to go to these meetings and I'll be in this room. This is more on the creative sides anyway, with artists that were doing crazy numbers and stuff. And you would say the wrong thing, or not even the wrong thing. You would just say your opinion and you're shot down straight away. And you just kind of make you feel like, like you don't speak in this room, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then earn your place in those rooms. Those voices are still at the back of your head, like, bro, you don't speak in these rooms, you keep quiet, kind of thing. And I feel like it's that for a lot of artists, that when they were starting out and they were with the artists that they've dreamt about and all of this stuff, they've always been put down. So when you do earn that place, mentally, you're just like, I don't deserve to be here.
I know someone, sounds really off topic, but it isn't. I know someone who lost like a significant amount of weight. Yeah. From being a teenager to being an adult, and this person's like dead into the gym, looks really, really great, whatever, but in their head they're still the fat kid. They're still the kid that got bullied. Like that never changes. And I think it's the same in music. Like if you spend years being the guy that's just been, oh, your opinion's not important, or like your music's not even doing well, why would I listen to you? And then all of a sudden you're like, now I'm in a place where I make music. Your brain still tells you you're all of those things that you were at the start.
I think you're right then. I think imposter syndrome is internal work that you got to do. You got to figure out a way of shutting those voices down, especially when it matters. Because when you step in those rooms, it's game time. You don't even have time to figure out why you're feeling this way. You got to turn it on, and you get what I mean.
But it might be the culture as well. And so, if it's the culture, and this is really easier said than done. If it's the culture, you've just got to sit there and just go, do you know what? It's a you problem.
Yeah.
I know my stuff. I know what I know. And I think knowing what you don't know is massive. You've just got to be like,
Being able to, actually don't know that side of the topic.
I do that all the time. If I'm like, so look, that's not my area. No.
That is, oh my God, yeah.
But I think a lot of people don't feel comfortable saying
No,
it.
it's not. Most people don't have the confidence to say it.
Because people talk so much shit.
Yeah, and they feel like they have to know.
Because like all the big guys in the industry and women, I'm not saying just guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that say, yeah, I know about this and I work with them and da-da-da. And that puts you in a position where you're like, if I say I don't know something, I know they'll judge me because they're doing this big facade thing.
The people who've got the mouth on them are usually the judgmental ones, right? Yeah. So that's the whole thing of like, but they're often, unfortunately, sometimes the people with the mouth manage to get jobs they don't deserve.
That's the whole music industry.
That's the entire music industry. The people who have no imposter syndrome and just blag it end up being the people at the top.
They're the people who know nothing.
Which makes people who are genuinely decent, it makes the imposter syndrome even worse.
Yeah.
I think how to like get better with imposter syndrome, I think you're right in saying knowledge, but also like you've got to do like a deep dive into
the internal work.
Yeah, Dunning-Kruger curve.
Yeah.
The people who get a little bit of knowledge are at the top of Mount Stupid. Yeah. You've just got to appreciate, I'm not on Mount Stupid, I'm down here. I know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't feel, I don't have to prove myself.
I think it's a confidence and security thing as well. Like, I think artists really need to work on their self-confidence, but obviously that's difficult because most creatives are introverts. Like,
yeah, I think the thing with it is because when you're creative, a huge part of success is to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. You get what I mean? Which then means that you have all of these internal things you're dealing with constantly, whether that's confidence, whether you get what I mean. So it's just, it's tricky, man. Well, it goes back to the mental health. There needs to be a system in place that can help people navigate.
Or we just fire all the dickheads.
Well, we have a policy, don't we? We effectively do not work with people who are full of crap. We're not interested. If the people are all just mouth, that's it. They're gone.
Next question.
Is there one thing that you wish you didn't do at the start of your career?
That's such a good question. For me, like, I think I'd have worked so much better if I didn't doubt myself so much. Like, I just didn't think I was capable of doing it. Yeah. And I think if I hadn't have felt like that, I'd have just been able to see things so much more clearly. So I think, like, for me, self-doubt at the start of my career, I really wish I didn't have that.
Yeah. I think for me, it's not seeing that this is a long game. I feel like I was surrounded by family members and brothers, and, like, my family's quite high achievers. And just, like, the music, you're all, like, once you choose music, it's like, well, you've given up on life kind of thing, isn't it? And not understanding this is a long game, and the reality of the long game is a huge part of it. You're working a part-time job. You get what I mean? Like, just the reality of this long game. You're playing a good 5-10 year game before you start to actually see tangible traction. Mm-hmm. And I just used to be like, oh my God, I've done this for 2 years and I've achieved absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I'm wasting my life away. Not realizing that I was just building the bricks to get to the point where everything really starts to move.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, it's I wish I realized that this was a long game I was playing, and be able to just be okay with that. Be okay with working Nando's. Be okay with things going up and then going down. You get what I mean? Be okay with just taking it one step.
And things changing as well. Because when I was 15, I was like, I want a record label. I don't want a record label. Yeah. Like, I really don't want a record label. I really like the business side of music, and I love music, and I'm a musician, but I had this idea that I'm going to have a record label. Then I realised to have a record label, you need, like, a significant amount of money to spend, and I didn't have money to spend. And that whole thing of, if I can't be a record label and I'm never going to make it, like, pivot. Understanding that what you think at the start might be completely different. I mean, I could be in a completely different role in 10 years' time. I don't know. Like, knowing that you can change direction, and if an opportunity comes but it's not exactly on the path that you want to take it anyway, and be open to changing routes. I'd be really interested to know your opinion, because obviously you did music, but then you went into a completely different industry, didn't you?
Yeah, and if I hadn't, I'm very zen about things. I'm kind of like,
chill guy.
What happened.
I'm such a chill guy.
Yeah.
Steve's a chill guy, guys.
Yeah, but it's just like, but the things that you do, the steps along the road make you who you are. I mean, the only thing I would have changed is that I would have liked to have not had tinnitus. So protected my ears, understood that it's like not macho not to put earplugs in when you're sort of
raw dog your ears.
yeah, but that was culture though. That was culture of the people around you, sort of
Yeah.
thing of like protecting your ears is not like
It's not
you
very
know,
cool.
yeah,
It's not very hard.
yeah, sort of thing. But that's probably the only thing. But everything else just makes it. But even then, to an extent, when I got tinnitus, it actually forced us to go right. What can I do about this? What can I do? And I started a non-profit, and that was a step along the road.
Yeah.
And I guess starting your work for tinnitus and the music you made for tinnitus,
Yeah,
that put you in touch with Frank, and now you're the CEO of the business.
that's true. Yeah,
So
that got
if
us.
it
That
wasn't-
kind of got us
Just-
segued
yeah.
into
If you
music.
had never got tinnitus, you wouldn't be sat here. Would you have ever got back into the music business?
Who knows? I mean, it's the
Crazy.
pandemic that got us out of what I was doing before, like, and
Well,
back into
yeah.
music. But it was
But
through connections.
If the pandemic, obviously the pandemic will have still happened, but if you didn't have tinnitus, would it have encouraged you to go back into making music and promoting music again?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have made the connections. So see, I always think things happen, and you've just like it's all footsteps along the way.
Yeah, definitely.
Chill guy.
Just chill guy and just reason.
What has been the most fulfilling part of your journey so far?
For me, literally bringing people's visions to life. I think we've done quite a few great campaigns this year with our priority artists. But there was one that was very particular for me. Don't know if she'll mind me. I won't name her. But being able to work with an artist who on the books is everything that this industry says doesn't work. You get what I mean? Not suited for social media, not suited for this, and then just absolutely smashing every goal, like doing over almost 200K within the first 2 months. You get what I mean? Like having this success, building on top, putting the work in, everything just moving, the brand really connecting, from the first jump. And for me, it was just like, it made me realize, okay, I can sell any artist. It might take longer for anyone, but there is no one that I cannot make. You get what I mean? And it really made me realize that, okay, any artist I can help. No matter who you are, no matter how difficult you think you are or how unique your story is, if you're willing to listen and learn and be moldable, we can do something. And that for me was, yeah.
I think we should name that artist.
Yeah. Like Sylvia, just...
Sylvia Daly, go and listen to her music. I'm kind of annoyed you went first because I was going to say the same thing, especially for this year. Working with artists that are neurodivergent, I think has been like a whole eye-opener for me this year. Like it's something that I've never really had experience with. And I think for neurodivergent artists, the music industry is just like, it's just a sensory overload. Like everything about the music industry is not catered for neurodivergent artists. And for Sylvia to come to us and be like, this is what I struggle with and I find this really difficult. And for us to be like, there are things we can change and there are things we can't change. Yeah. And to help navigate that for her and to see like 200,000 streams and views and millions of views. Oh, I'm going to say that again. Because you said 200,000, but she's not got 200,000. I guess 200, yeah. So to see like 200,000 streams across platform and millions of views on Instagram in literally her first, she didn't even get a TikTok account until February this year. Yeah. To see an artist that thought she had everything stacked against her overtake the majority of the artists we're working with right now has been so fulfilling. Yeah. I think as a manager, I think the most fulfilling part for me is to see long-term success. Yeah. Like, I've been working with the artists I managed since I was 15, and like, so we're 7-8 years in now? Yeah. And we're only just starting to see real results, tangible results. Yeah. And to see that over 7 years, and this like artist is like my best friend, and for us to do that together, and to go through that journey together and learn together. Because when we first met, he won't mind me saying this, he wasn't that great. And I knew literally nothing. I just liked music. And for us to go from that to where we are now and to see that growth, I think that's been really fulfilling. I'd have rather had that over 7 years than over 6 months.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
100%.
and I've really enjoyed that entire process. But yeah.
See, for me, I kind of like, as you go on your journey and you do lots of different things and you do sort of like, I've realised that the thing I get most out of is helping people. I love, and it ties obviously within what we do. I love helping people realise their dreams and realise how they can get from A to B. And I work with a few people that just like, I get a real kick out of. And I'm doing a design thing tomorrow with a different project. And it's like, I just get such a kick out of that, of like, just helping somebody to realise, actually, you can do this. The things there's not a barrier.
Yeah.
The barriers are what you make yourself, I think, a lot of the time.
I think it's that, like, for me, it's really breaking, like, I feel like that's where I feel the universe is pushing me at the moment. And that's where a lot of the work I'm doing is based on one-to-ones, liaising with artists, giving talks and stuff. It is not impossible to do this. People really, like, to make a living from music is not as hard as you think. It is a lot of work, but it is not impossible. Now, everyone is not going to make $1 million. You get what I mean? Everyone is not going to be a superstar. But to make enough to put food on the table and live a relatively comfortable life in this music thing is not as hard as you think it is. It is not as impossible as you think it is. And that, for me to actually help people understand that and connect that, is such a blessing.
And I think it's so nice, like, watching an artist grow and watching their confidence grow as well. Like, when it will have a consultation with an artist, and at the start, like, they're just like, oh, you know, I make music, and and at the end of the call, they're like, right, yeah, so if I do this, and like, you can see the penny drop moment of like, oh my God, like, my music is good enough, and I can make this work. But yeah, I'd say that's...
I think that's the thing. I kind of act like a child half the time, and I'm just like, have you seen this? This is cool. You could do this. You could do that. And I'm just like a ball of energy in it. But it's because it's great.
Yeah. I feel like that's what makes us so different as well, that we're actually genuinely excited about stuff. Like, we don't usually work on records that we don't like anyway, kind of thing. So you're actually excited about working on a project, kind of thing, which means the way you approach that project and the way you push that project and the personal investment in that project is so different as well.
Yeah, it's not just a number on a sheet of paper.
Yeah, for reals.
So my track of the month this week is a band called Honey Motel. They're a kicker artist, and they're doing a 5-track waterfall campaign. And the first one's called If You Didn't Exist. And we've worked with this band for quite a while. And they took a bit of like a year off of releasing music, and to see them go from what they were a year and a half ago to where they are now, and the change in production and the change in the artwork and the change in the brand, I think they're just absolutely killing it, and the music's really good. So yeah, go and have a listen to Honey Motel. They're a really good band.
So that effectively is our first ever podcast. Thanks to anybody who's made it this far, everybody who's made it this far, because seriously, it's like 90% of
We're
people,
literally
right?
just talking about imposter syndrome, and you're like, thanks to anyone who's made it.
Yeah. I love you so much. Please, please be my friend. Yeah.
But yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, comment.
Chanel.
Want to hear more questions.
And give us questions for the next podcast. We want to hear what you're interested to have us answer.
And also any
anything.
like topics you want us to cover, or any, like, this podcast is we can mold it to fit.
Yeah.
Completely, if you want
Everything
us
is
to
about building community, really. Like that.
We're here for the people.
Yeah. I really do feel like we can build something with independent artists that is really kind of empowering to them. So yeah.
Let us know what you want to see in the next episode.
Thanks. Goodbye.